It's been a hot minute. Welcome to the Mackem Football Show. I'm Anth the Mackem, and today the Discord call is slightly different. I'm the main focus of the video, but I am joined with David. Is still David the Doofus, or is it just David now, mate?
Yeah, you can call me whatever you want, mate.
Well, we're not long into the stream. We'll leave the pleasantries for a couple of minutes, shall we? Where are we at? Oh, yeah. We've had a horrible week from a Sunderland perspective. 2 back-to-back defeats from weak opposition, shall we say. 2-0 loss to Plymouth. I think, yeah, I've kind of written that off as more of a game that it was just lost chances, counter-attacking football, and generally just not being clinical enough and being sussed out, really. That style of play, that style of game has worked effectively for about 80% of the teams that have tried to do it this season. So I think that's going to be something we've got to come up against a lot this campaign. And Huddersfield Town, I can't. They kind of set themselves up the same, but they had a lot more vulnerabilities than Plymouth. So we do get the goal, the Luke Godin goal. Essentially, they set themselves up the same way. Park the bus at the back and catch us on the counter. Bury the two chances that they get, be clinical, and yeah, they get the points. Is that a fair summation, David, do you think?
Say again, sorry?
Is that a fair summation?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. What do you think we need to do to fix this?
That's
a loaded
first,
question.
you need to shoot.
On target, though, because
you need to shoot on, Plymouth, on target.
The Plymouth game, we had 25 shots, by the way, with just 4 on target.
Like 4, yeah. So that to me says attacking issues.
Yep.
Your defense, by the looks of it, has gone downhill the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
Which is also a concern. I don't know whether that's because you're playing the same thing every week and people are just learning to adapt to it. And all your tactics are the same. And again, people are just adapting to it and they know the way around. So
yeah. So it's basically for you the tactical rigidness, shall we say, from Mobius style that's causing us to drop points now. Yeah. I think there's a few fans that would disagree with you on that, but the vast majority, if they're watching the actual games, they can't really argue. If you know what you're coming up against, you can prepare well for it. It's as simple as that. We have one style of football. It did work for a good chunk of games, and it's causing a bit of a roller coaster. When the team are visibly in a good mood, a good momentum, it carries through. The confidence when you're coming up against a team that just don't care what the opposition think. It's unbeatable 9 times out of 10. But in the last couple of games, since the international break, at the very least, it has been one of those things where heads have dropped in moments. The corner comes in, oh crap, what are we going to do here? We're very weak from corners. Plymouth scored from a corner. the ping pong ball. Huddersfield scored from a corner. It's just, I don't know, it's just too little. Too late. We always seem to have to try and fight back into games rather than bury the chances. Like you said, being clinical is a concern now. Now, I have seen lots of comments on some of my videos and on X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it. It still says twitter.com, by the way, so you can still call it Twitter. That emphasize that gap, that weakness up front of being clinical. We have 4 named strikers, but like I said in one of my previous videos, 4 strikers fighting for one position, and they're not getting a good running of games. Here's a stat for you, and you can react to this one if you like, David. So the other another Sunderland channel, Only Fools in SAFC, came up with a lot of good stats for us. Our number one striker is Jack Clark. Then our actual strikers have about a fourth the amount of shots and a fifth of the amount of shots on target. So Clark had 19 shots in the last couple of games, and I think it was 11 shots on target with 4 goals, something like that. Watch his video to see the exact numbers that he pulled out. But Amir had a 5, Rushin had 6, and like 1 shot on target each. It's just how do you get the strikers one shooting more, but getting the shots on target?
Practice,
and
that's practice training. I think they need more confidence. So it probably could be a confidence thing as well.
Yeah,
I think actually trying to line up a shot instead of just trying to hoof it all the time probably will also help.
To be fair, I think it's basic as actually giving them the ball to have a shot. If our number one person having the shots, and I think our number 2 is we have our left wing, our right wing, a cam, and then our defense having more shots than our strikers, giving the balls to the strikers to have those shots, I think is naturally going to make more shots go on target. Jim, welcome along, mate. Thank you for popping in. It's nice. By all means, let me know what you think in the comments as well to this striker situation. But I also think there's another thing. Game time. We don't give the strikers enough game time. The stats are very skewed, don't get me wrong, but if you're only having 3 games out of 10, if you're having 3.5 games coming on as a sub for the last 20 minutes, those shot numbers and those stats are going to be naturally lower, right? So how do you get your strikers shooting more? Because they are known to put the ball in the back of the net. That's what they've been recruited for. That's what they've been developed. That's how they've become a professional footballer, by putting that ball in the back of the net. If you're literally chopping off one of their key confidence factors, which is game time, they're naturally not going to score as many goals as you think, right? Like, is it that simple?
I mean, strikers, their main job is to score goals. That's what they're on the pitch to do. That's what they're paid to do. Game time can be a fact. How many strikers have you got now?
We've got 4 strikers fighting for 1 position.
Yeah, so that's probably another issue, is you've got these 4 players who want to play, but there's only one position available to play. Which, if you're looking at it, is like, well, there's only a 25% chance I'm playing this weekend, and that's every weekend. So, to me, that screams you have more players for that position than you're going to use. It's putting stress on them to perform well so they can get that starting position.
Yeah.
And there's also probably a confidence issue, because if they're not starting, they're going to be, well, I'm not good enough, blah, 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 you know.
I'm second, third choice, fourth choice, whatever that is. And it's...
So I think the way of fixing that is to either, if you're going to stick with one striker, you need to get rid of some, or you change your formation up and you get 2 strikers on the pitch. That way you can have 2 starting, and then say 60th minute you can swap the other 2 back on if you need to.
Yeah.
So that way they're all getting game time. They're all getting experience. They're all getting their confidence up, and hopefully, as well, having 2 strikers, that's double the chances of the ball going into net.
I think you got to do one there, mate. Like the formation won't work for that style of player, and I think you're very, very aware, should I say? But probably is a better word, of how we currently set ourselves up, and I think our opposition are as well. 4-2-3-1, back 4. Clark, Dan Neil, and Ekwala, the choice centre backs. Clark and Roberts with Joe Bellingham and one of those 4 strikers up front. there's other players that are missing out in that midfield because of that, where we currently select it as well. I think competition for places when we're losing is the easiest thing to say. Well, if you perform in training, you're likely to perform in the game, which is a really good philosophy to get those people motivated. But if they're only motivated by, I don't know, if they're not motivated to play, then we're kind of like coming up with these alternatives to fit them into the squad when they're not happy. Could it be that as well? Are we kind of shooting ourselves in the foot the way we're currently setting ourselves up for some players not getting any game time?
I mean, if players aren't going to get game time at all, then I think that's both an issue with them and the club, because obviously there's a reason they're not getting game time.
Mm-hmm.
But then, if the player's like, oh, I'm not getting any game time, what's the point in me trying?
Mm-hmm.
Then that could also weigh on it. But again, I think your main overall issue is that you're doing the same tactics from what I can see every day, or every game, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, if you're going to play the same tactics every week, you need to expect that your opponents are just going to counter it every week. So,
yeah.
Something needs to change. I would start with formation, having at least 2 strikers, and go from there.
Yeah, so build from the top and work the way back.
Yep.
On that part, then, in terms of working the way back, would you stack the midfield and jeopardize how we're currently setting up at the back?
What I would actually be really interested in seeing Sunderland do would be a 4-4-2.
Just a classic, the classic formation.
Just a classic. I would love to see you just play a classic 4-4-2. See how that game goes, because I would bet that if you played a 4-4-2, your defense would be solid. It's already pretty solid, but I think having those 2 extra people back would help you immensely. And then, of course, you've got the 2 strikers, which would be putting, hopefully, more shots on target, which would bump up your goal-scoring opportunities through the roof as well.
Yeah, and I think it does kind of know the competition in the middle of the park. So, yeah, I absolutely think that's a thing we should be trying at the very least, because one, the opposition will not know how to. They haven't set themselves up to play against our 4-4-2 style. They might be used to against other opposition, but we then have 2 solid lines of defense. If we're dropping back or inviting them on, we've got 2 target men, both in the box, splitting the defense rather than everybody just shepherding this one striker who's that's really easy to defend against. So that again could be why the shots are so slim and few and far between for the strikers, because if you've got 3 defenders hounding that one player, like Jack Clark gets done against a lot with that, it reduces our opportunity. Ted's popped in, by the way. Welcome, Ted. 6-0, obviously. Winning every game.
I was just going to say, if you look back at your games,
mm-hmm.
the majority of your attacks revolve around Jack Clark
on the left,
going down the left wing,
mm-hmm.
trying to take on 3 or 4 people, getting absolutely surrounded, and then he'll either shoot when he's not in a position to shoot, or he will try and pass to your striker, who at this point is also being surrounded. So I reckon having that 1 extra attacker to bring some of the defenders away from both Clark and the other striker would probably help immensely.
Yeah, and that keeps the opportunity for the other wing on the other side to collect anything that goes too far over.
Because it's not...
Yeah.
Because with having more than 1 attacker, it's like... If you've got 1 attacker, it's like, right, they're going to try and whip the ball into him till he can score.
Mm-hmm.
2 of you just stick on him like glue. Because if you shut him down, he's not doing anything all game. And QPR have just scored, by the way.
Really? It's still 0-0 on my screen. A long ball over the top. Okay, yeah. So sorry, while we're streaming this, QPR and Preston are in the 54th minute. Ball whipped in, far post, and scruffed into the back of the net. Yes, you're right. I'm about 30 seconds behind. Let's not do that on the watch along. Oh, what a backflip. His celebration's better than his goal. Yeah, QPR in the lead against Preston North End. That can only be good for Sunderland because of obviously Preston are on our heels in terms of points and what have you, whereas QPR are in the relegation zone and fighting for survival as we speak. So, yeah, good a good point, I guess. A good 3 points if it does materialise. Yes, so sorry. Thanks for the nice distraction with not talking about Sunderland, which is
sorry.
no, it's all right. It's been a horrible week to just like think about how we're setting ourselves up week in, week out for failure.
Also, without trying to toot my own horn, I said before the Plymouth game, I think you would struggle.
Oh, and we did.
And statistically wise, you didn't. You like if I look at the stats, you dominated 24 shots, 67% possession. You had 563 passes to their 280. You had 83% pass accuracy and 14 corners. Like, statistically wise, you should have won that game, but I think it was the fact that you've... Like, 20% of your shot... 80% of your shots weren't even on target. I think that's what let you down.
Well, there was, with the Plymouth game specifically, the keeper had an absolute worldie of a game as well. There was some really good saves that ended up hitting the crossbar going wide because the keeper was just on fire when he was needed to be. But it's burying the chances when we get them. We've had 25 chances essentially in that game. Why are none of them ending up in the back of the net? And secondly, like when we're defending, we are forgetting how to sometimes. We're pulling players when we shouldn't. We're leaving gaps. We're a little bit switched off. So, yes, we can't. The game I went to with Birmingham City, we conceded that goal, which again was from a lapse in judgment and just a completely out the blue goal. Very typical. But at least in that one, we had the confidence going forward that their keeper was going to drop the ball. Their defense was going to try and push up. When the team just sits back in that 25 to the goal line marker and we're trying to get through a brick wall, we don't seem to know how to do it. We only ever attack down the wings. We hardly ever cut the ball through the middle. Our best opportunity in that Plymouth game was when we passed the ball straight through the middle of the park because nobody expected it from them. So it's like, try the unexpected sometimes. If you just come constantly bombard with the exact same thing, it's easy to counteract, right? I think that's ultimately our point.
The problem is doing the same thing every week is teams will look at your previous games, see what you're doing, and come up with strategies to counter. It's basic team fight. It's basically like a team fighter, right? If you're going into like a tournament, take free sports for example.
Okay.
If you're going into a tournament playing against teams, you're going to look at their previous games, look at their strategies, and come up with counter strategies. It's the same thing, but it's football instead of say like Counter-Strike, right? If you're doing the same thing every single week, teams are going to look at that and be like, right, this is how we counter it. And then when you come and play the game and you start doing the tactics that you've been doing for the last 6 weeks, they're going to go, right, this is how we counter it. And they're going to do it, and they're going to absolutely stomp you.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with that. The only like addition I want to add on that with the Plymouth goals, the first one was an absolute worldie. There's absolutely no way that Anthony Patterson could have stopped that goal. If we were maybe like a couple of yards closer to him when he was taking the shot, we stepped off and invited that shot on. It was like, go on, have a shot. You're 40 yards out, or 30 yards, or whatever it was out. That shot was an absolute rocket. It was never going to miss. But we shouldn't have been allowing him to have that shot in the first place. So that's the difference. Like, if you're going to be clinical, that's how you be clinical. Like, if we were to sit back a little bit, invite them on, and catch them on the counter, I think we'd have a much better time based on like trying to catch their defenders out on the counter, because they're expecting us to bombard them, send like 8-9 people behind the ball, and then catch us. So if they're doing it the opposite way around, they're not really geared or set up to do that. So sometimes I think the way we carry ourselves forward, it leaves those gaps at the back. And like you said, it's predictable. The The other side of that, though, the Huddersfield game, Huddersfield were horrible, but we we were worse. That was one of the worst performances I've seen from the majority of the Sunderland team
It wasn't great.
in years. I wouldn't say it's as bad as when we lost 6-0 to Bolton Wanderers, but it was close. I think we've now got the skill in our players to be much better. But it felt exactly the same. I know a 2-1 loss and a 6-0 loss should not feel like the 6-0 loss should feel like the end of the world. Well, it was for Lee Johnson, by the way. He got sacked after that game. But those two games had the exact same like feeling at the end of the 90 for me. We should not be losing 2-1 to that weak Huddersfield team. It absolutely humbled them. Again, the stats, I don't know if you can find them for that Huddersfield game, but we dominated that one as well.
Huddersfield, Sunderland, Huddersfield.
What's your
Stats?
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, 27 shots to their 8. You had 70.
So we had in the two games combined
Over 50 shots.
over 50 shots on one goal.
One goal, yeah.
And it's from
So you
our
had 27
centre-back.
shots to their 8. You had 9 on target. You had 77% possession. You had triple their passes with 721 to their 219. You had 90% pass accuracy and 10 corners to their 4.
So I think what was
So statistically, you're dominating. It's just
the one statistic
getting
that
the ball
matters.
in the net is a massive problem.
Yeah. And that happens when you don't have a goal from a known striker, apparently, since April. So
That is an oof.
it is a massive oof. So have we recruited the right strikers? Could it be that? Yes, we've hired young talent with potential, but potential doesn't get you goals.
Nope.
Quality, skill, and expertise does. So give them the expertise, but I think maybe having four really good potential players versus 1 or 2 with experience, that might have been the recruitment problem here. If the potential was showing off, I think this discussion would be absolutely mute. But it's not, and when it's not, we need to question it as a fan base. Why? Jim said, by the way, Ekwa, Hume, Huggins, plus some others needed a decent run in the team to get going. Rushin could have been the answer, but he's not getting. But he's got a groin injury at the minute. That's why he was out. Burstow is the only one who's had a reasonable run of games, and Rushin has had, I think it was 5 shots and 3 on target, and Burstow 5 and 4 on target. So those, when they're in the game, they are getting those shots, they are getting those opportunities, but that's in 3 games each. 5 shots in 3 games for each striker.
Yeah, it needs to be way higher.
Mm-hmm. But the shots are coming from our wingers. The shots are coming from the midfield. So it's like, how do we balance that out? We need, like you said, I think it is just simply change it to 2 up front.
Yeah,
it does mean our midfield loses out on an extra position. So maybe take out one of the CDMs and let them like recoup. So Dan Neal and Pierre Ekwa are our 2 holding central midfielders. Why not just have one? If we've only got 2 CDMs and one of them gets out injured, we're kind of screwed anyways. We're pushing Luke O'Nine up, or we're putting Huggins in that position. If we've got 2 for 1 position and 4 for 1 position, 2 playing for 2 positions and 4 for 1, why not try and balance it out? So it's 2 for 1 and 4 for 2. That to me makes more sense, right? Am I speaking gibberish there?
No, I agree. I think also another possible formation could be a 4-3-3.
Yeah. I think Mike's just come up with another good way of doing it. Imagine, he says, we're going to need a bigger net for us to score. That's good, but I think it would be accurate. But like, could you imagine if you get like half a goal based on like if you got it above the bar or something like that, like 0.2 of goal? We like based on those shots, we would be winning games like 5-0. Do you know what I mean? Just
if you're averaging 25 shots a game,
yeah.
If they were all on target, you'd be scoring 6-7 goals a game easily, I reckon.
We should. I think we just need a confidence booster, and how we get that, I don't know. Jim says also, agree, we are very one-dimensional. If we have one DM, there you go, defensive midfielder, and all the others are attackers, teams can break through us much easier and score, so opponents can defend and break when possible. But when we have the current 2 CDMs, our centre-backs are going forward. I've noticed in our game, we've had Dan Neil in the box, we've had Triantis, we've had Sealed. That Luke O'Nien, both Sealed and Luke O'Nien were in the box to get our goal against Huddersfield, by the way. So it's like, why are they not strikers who are there to naturally do it rather than scruff it over the line? Don't get me wrong, I was absolutely buzzing when Luke O'Nien scored, but why are they not people who aren't strikers? It makes very, very little sense to me. So, yeah. I want to talk about an elephant in the room as well, by the way. No, before I do that, Mike's just popped in. The fact of the matter is, the other sides, sorry, I've figured this out now. Sunderland playing, Tony needs to change it up and not rely on Clark and maybe put 2 strikers up front. That's my thoughts. You've reiterated what we've said, Mike, pretty much over the last...
Pretty much what we've both said.
20 minutes. Set pieces are different, no. Set pieces... Yeah, putting the shortest man on the post makes sense. As a man who's like 5'7", 5'8", I don't even know. I'm 172 centimeters. If anybody can convert that into feet, I was always on the post because I'm broad. I'm short, but I'm broad, so it's a bit different. Oh, hello. I think Brad from RWA has joined us. Hello.
Good evening, Alf.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. So I'm going to start talking about that elephant I was talking about in the room now. There's been a couple of mentions from our fan base around Mo, Mowbray out. Now, I'm going to say my 2 cents on it, and it kind of feeds into how that one-dimensional approach is there. I think tactically we need a change. Whether it is Tony Mowbray leaving the club and getting a new manager to make those tactical changes, I don't know. I think Tony Mowbray is more than capable of making those tactical changes that we need. So I think we need to put a little bit more faith in Tony. I genuinely do. Like if he screws up this game against Millwall, his time and his dates are numbered. We can't go on for a free losing streak against the teams that are just outside the relegation zone. 20th, then 21st, and now we're playing 19th. If we lose all 3 of those games, we might as well have been joining them. So if we're losing those 3 games in a row, I think his job is definitely going to be vocalised for the majority of the fan base. I'd like to keep him because I think he's quality. I think he's a really decent bloke as well. So I don't want that for him, but if it's the best thing for the club, that's ultimately what matters, right? We as a fan base want to see us winning and want to see us challenging and putting in an effort. That was the bare minimum, and we didn't do that against Huddersfield. We struggled to do that against Plymouth. Yeah, what's your thoughts on it, Itona?
As an outsider, yeah, I would agree. Something's not working from the looks of the games. It's the tactics, and if he carries on the same, it has to get to the point of where you start looking like, well, there's an issue with the tactics. Why is he not changing it? And from what I've seen, I quite like Tony Mowbray as well. But you do need to start questioning if he's fit for the job, if he's gonna run the same tactics every week. Yeah. That's all I can add.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Brad?
Mm-mm.
You all right?
Yeah. What was the question? Sorry, Alf.
Mowbray.
Mowbray. In or out was the question, wasn't it?
Pretty much, yeah. Are you on your phone?
Yeah, because my little sister's got the PC now. She's got all
Got you.
room moved around, so she wants the PC. I'm getting a laptop for Christmas, so yeah.
Okay.
I'm Mowbray in, to be honest, at this moment in time, but obviously what you've just said, Anth, if we lose against Millwall, obviously with being beaten by 3 teams in the relegation zone, it's just not acceptable, really, is it?
Yeah, exactly. Daytona says the club and the fans have different agendas in his opinion. Oh, their opinion. Sorry, I don't know if it's if his was the correct pronoun there. Sorry, on that point, Daytona, what is the fans' expectations? Because I think from me as a fan, I don't speak for every single fan. Obviously, I think we want to be back in the Premier League. I don't think we're ready with it. This current squad, we're clearly not. We would struggle. I think we'd survive, but we'd definitely struggle, and we'd survive by the skin of our teeth. But I'd rather see us. My minimum expectation for this team is to when they go out on the pitch to put the heart on their sleeves. Now, Luke O'Nien does that every single week. He makes absolutely stupid mistakes. Joe Bellingham, I think, is starting to get bought into the club's ethos a bit. He's taking his time to get there. I think he can be as good as, or if not better than, Amad Diallo was for us last season. He just needs, I don't know, sometimes a bit of rotation, a bit of kick up the backside to get him into that mood on the day. He is a teenager at the end of the day, so he is going to have some bad games. He's still learning the game, he's still learning his trade. But I can't say, if off the top of my head, many other players that I think put in the 100% effort every single week. Maybe Ekwa as well. But yeah, I can't. Ekwa and Ballard, there you go. I think that's my extent of everybody's putting in 100% every single time. Now, what do you think the club's expectations are? I think it is purely, at the minute, growth, and whatever growth looks like, from a club's perspective, from an organisation's perspective, is purely cash. So Premier League brings more cash, so that's their expectation. But if they can get on TV more, or if they can sell an extra shirt that we don't like, or I don't like, that yellow one, then they're gonna increase revenue streams. That's ultimately, I think, what their main aim is. Brad?
I think the club expectations are, I think, we need kind of some experience. Do you agree, Anth?
Experience in what, sorry?
Like, experience in players, because we haven't got that much player experience, have we?
No.
Basically a young squad, basically, pretty much. I think our squad is about 23 of oldest to actually plays in our squad, if you know what I mean. I'm trying to elaborate. Just trying to get my words out.
No. So the way I took your experience question was more like the club owners having more nous around long-term planning for the club. So I'm glad you clarified on that. In terms of experience on the pitch, Corey Evans is our oldest player, but he's been injured for a while now, and as soon as he comes back, I don't. David, do you know who Corey Evans is?
Nope.
It's genuinely been that long. You've been watching Sunderland streams with us for about a year now,
a year and a half.
Yeah, year and a half. There you go. And I think the first game you watched, so you might have got injured on it. He was essentially Pierre Ekwa mixed in with Luke O'Nien. So
nice.
Essential to our central defensive midfield, essentially. He's an Irish international. He's basically just really good and should be at the playoff level of the championship at least, in terms of his quality. But he hasn't played a single game for us this entire season. Been too long. But yeah, experience heads. Bradley Dack, who's come in, is one of our oldest. He's 29. Pritchard, also 29. Both of them didn't even start the game. Luke O'Nien, I think, is 27. He's obviously our talisman now. He's our captain now, who took over from Corey Evans. But everybody else is early 20s in the teens, and I think the age is kind of irrespective. I think it's just about their personal maturity. You can be absolutely mature and ready and physically ready for the Premier League or top flight football at the age of 16, 17. Look at Regan, look at Bellingham. I think they're strong, talented kids essentially, but are they aware of how to come up against somebody like, let's say, if you're still playing Joey Barton or what's he called, Balotelli, or somebody like that, some big physical unit. Yes, they can.
Zlatan.
Yeah, the Zlatans. Do they know how to deal with that mentally, or are they just going to be caught in awe? So yeah, I think maturity is a good thing to call out. But I think our current squad, because they're that young and talented, they see themselves as a threat, and I don't know if it's an entitlement to win, but just because you've got the talent doesn't mean you've got the nous to do it. So yeah, it's a different one. In terms of Daytona's clarified on that question, by the way, fans want to get to the Premier League, club more interested in development at the moment. I think both of those goals can align. It's just you've got to have the perfect mix, Daytona. Hey up, Mr. Barnsley, welcome along. Jack Clark said he would stay as long as Tony Mowbray was manager, so a transfer window would be tricky. He's just under 5'11", so only 3 centimeters short of 6 feet. Thank you very much. I'm glad how everybody's putting into centimeters now. That's good. Hope you get a call from Mr. Barnsley. What? Hope you get a call from Mr. Barnsley. Don't want Leeds and Sheffield getting him. I mean, I don't really know with the January transfer windows. I know what we need. We need an experienced striker, but beyond that, I think we're okay. Jack Clark staying would be a huge one to lose. But yeah, that's another point. Yeah. David, what's your thoughts on it? So I'm just trying to put it into words.
In terms of where Sunderland's at the minute,
yeah.
I think you're not, for whatever reason, you're not performing as good as last season. I think if you were to go up to the Premier League last season, I think you would currently be where Burnley are.
Yeah, and surprisingly not where Luton are.
I mean, they're still well within it.
That's what. Yeah, they're still struggling, but Luton are doing a lot better.
They are out there. They are 4 points clear of it. To be fair to them,
because they were gifted it. Yeah, but
yeah. It's just I think your team needs to be changed, whether in players, formations, etc. I can't really say too much because I don't know much about football tactics. Like I know bare minimum, but it's something obviously needs to change. I would say starting with 2 strikers is probably a good start. Seeing how it does. Yeah. I would probably say I don't know if you probably won't want to, but I think you probably should stay in the Championship. Probably for at least one more season. And try and build a team that is Premier League ready. Because, like I just said, I think if you go up to the Premier League now, you're just gonna come straight back down again. And that's not me saying, oh, your team's shit. It's just saying I think there's just such a massive skill gap between Championship teams and Premier League teams that it's hard to keep up with. I think funds is a big issue as well. It comes into play for it. But yeah, that's...
Yeah, obviously there's a lot of balancing of the books when we go to the Premier League. To me, I think we've got to give Mowbray a little bit more time. Obviously, the club feel that as well. I don't want us to be brash. I don't want us to have to be on the hunt for another head coach. Sorry, I keep calling him the manager. He's a head coach. So his players are not necessarily his choices. We've got one player that has joined Sunderland that he chose out, and it was on a free transfer, so it's purely just a wages thing, and that's obviously Bradley Dack from Blackburn. Now, Bradley Dack hasn't featured that much. I think he's played 7 games, and most of them are off the bench. It's kind of it's kind of a strange one. Like, if you've got a favourite player at another club, he comes to your club, you'd expect that manager to embed him and onboard him as part of the natural fold. But obviously, not show too much of a favouritism there. But the fact that he's Dak eventually started to get on the pitch and he hasn't maintained his position tells me there's something wrong with that.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, bye, Brad. Catch you in a bit. I think we're just in an awkward, tricky position. I do feel now that November's out the way, the 4 games in November, they were too spread apart because of that international break. It broke up our momentum from beating Birmingham to then losing against these 2 last opposition teams. Sorry, we have a absolute cluster of fixtures in December. I'm just going to get the exact number because I've spouted so many different numbers of games that we're playing in December. We've got one tomorrow against Millwall. This one, I think, might be the make or break of our entire season, which is a lot of pressure.
I know it's early days, but I generally think if you lose against Millwall tomorrow, you need to desperately think about what you can do to basically improve your team next year. If you're, like you said, if you're losing to the bottom 3 teams in the championship,
the team's just outside the relegation zone. So
yeah, that to me says you're staying in the championship this season.
Yep.
I don't think you'll go down, but I don't think you'll. I'm probably going to say you're going to finish mid-table,
where we are right now.
Where you currently are. Yeah, I don't think you're going to go. I think you're going to stay where you are.
Yeah.
So the way I would look at it is, if you win, then great, you've won a game. You can reset. I would still look at changing tactics and try and improve. But if you lose, I think it's going to be like, right, we're going to do enough to stay up, but we're going to look and plan for next season.
Yeah, absolutely. Just so you're aware, and the actual number is 7. We've got 7 fixtures in December. Millwall.
What?
Yeah. This is just league fixtures, by the way, as well. So you've got Millwall, and then I think if we lose to Millwall, we're not picking up any points up until the Bristol City game. But if we win against Millwall, we'll have a bit of momentum for the West Brom and Leeds game. We've got Bristol City, Coventry City, Hull, and Rotherham. On paper, we should be beating, and this is just on paper. We'll probably do the typical and do the absolute polar opposite of this. We should be beating Millwall. We should be getting a point against West Brom. We would struggle against Leeds because they're Leeds and they have Premier League quality players still in their squad. So maybe 4 points out of the first 3 games. Bristol City we should be beating based on our expectations. Coventry City is a draw again. Hull City, lucky to get a point on that one. Maybe a draw or a loss. And Rotherham we should be beating. So we should win 3 of those 7 games, draw 2 of them, and lose the other 2. So I think if you look at the end of at the end of December, and we have those results, we've delivered as per expectancy, I guess, but still not great. What we really want to see is 7 wins, right? I think it's literally that simple. How many games has your team got in December?
Hang on, let me look.
And I know, like, there's always more fixtures in December because you've got the Boxing Day, the Christmas Eve, the New Year's Eve.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Fixtures?
Yep.
What?
So we got 1, 2.
That's because you're playing in the Europa League, aren't you? And the Carabao Cup.
So we got 6 Prem and 1 Europa, and then
1 Carabao.
EFL Quarter Cup.
And then you've got 3 games in January.
And then we got 3 games in
It just doesn't seem to work out like the way you'd expect it
we're
to.
playing the Mags on bloody New Year's.
Yeah. Sneak Madger back. I mean, I don't think we need that much from our January transfer. Madger, maybe. Robin, welcome along, mate. Thank you very much for swinging by. I know it's a bit late or a bit earlier where you're at. We have a tendency to show up against big clubs and not against teams we should beat, i.e. Huddersfield Town and Plymouth Argyle. So, yeah. I'd rather Pritch start than come on. And when we're chasing the game, we always seem to be chasing the game at the minute. That's our flaw and our issue. But I have done number crunching, and I am a little bit of a nerd like that, shall we say. Year versus year, we are up, by the way. We are up on goal difference. We're up on games won. We're also up on games lost, though. We've converted draws into wins or losses. So 3 points instead of 1. So, I mean, like year on year, we're improving, but we've got so many gaps, so much to improve on, that it feels like we should be worse off. Or it just feels like we're a poor quality team when statistically we're literally not. So I don't know. Maybe we were the unknown. We were the Ipswich of last season. But this time round, we've been sussed, we've been caught out, and teams know how we play. So yeah, I think ultimately we'll start to wrap it up there, by the way, and hopefully we'll win tomorrow. We are kicking off at 3:00, so there will be an awkward watch along because it's always difficult to get the what's it called, the football blackout, something like that.
QPR 2-0 by now.
How is this happening? So QPR will climb out of the relegation zone, and the team that beat us drops into it ahead of this weekend in Huddersfield Town, based on goal difference, both on 19 points. QPR now on -12 and Huddersfield on -13. So yeah, we got beat by a team last week who are now in the relegation zone. Thanks for that. Wow. Quite a few players seem under par at the minute. Really good point. It's a good sign that we're annoyed if they play poorly instead of it being the usual. Hopefully, Serkin's Elise return will help, and Matete and Evans around the turn of the year. Have you ever seen Jay Matete either?
No.
Have you seen Aji Elise?
No. How long have I been watching Sunderland? I can't have been watching for a year and a half. I joined halfway through last season.
Yeah, that's a year. That's about a year then. Halfway through last season would be like January this like around this time last year then.
Yeah, just over a year, I guess.
The fact that you don't know like how these players are on the pitch for me is a telltale sign that they have been missing quite some time, and when they have been here and fit, they've been what's it called?
I mean, some
invisible.
Prem players have that too. It's just like you wouldn't know they're on the pitch unless they score or get an assist.
Well, it's not necessarily that. It's just more like they're having an impact on the game. Like making a good tackle, I think, is for me more important than scoring a tap in from 2 yards out. Like, yeah, their name shows up on the score sheet and the history books, but like the tackle is what I'm going to remember more than that. You know what I mean? I think that's just me being more like of a defender than anything else, though. I do like a good, like strong slide tackle.
Best offense is a good defense.
Is that basketball?
I don't know. That's many things in life.
I mean, yeah, fair enough.
Martial arts.
Martial arts, yes.
Sorry, that was funny. One of the Preston just tried to just absolutely blast the ball, and he must have caught it on the outside of his boot, and it's pinged up in the air.
I'm about to watch it. But anyways, we've never been thrilled about Matete, but most everyone else seems to be. Nah. Yeah, but number 13. Yeah, number 13.
Yeah,
yeah. I'm not sure either about Matete.
I'm going to quickly grab a drink, mate.
Good place there. No problem. I'll probably by the time you get back, I'll probably be done on the stream. With Jay Matete, I always classed him as the skillful clown. So he was one of those players that try to do the Ronaldo, try to do the roundabout steps. Oh, that was very quick.
You forget my desk is in my kitchen now.
Yes, I do forget that. He just steps over the ball. He does all of these fancy tricks, but then and he can break past players with ease. But then he does the basic thing of like passing from 5 yards away and somehow messes that up. So he's a very skillful player, but he acts like a clown sometimes. Very immature. But that I think is essentially can be passed on to a lot of our players now. And on that note, I want us to go off with a positive. Sunderland predictions for tomorrow, and we'll do the watch along and hopefully see everybody who's popped in here there as well. I'm going to say we're getting a point. We're going for a 1-1 draw on that one. David, what are you saying for the game?
I can't remember what I predicted. I think I said 2-1.
2-1 to Sunderland.
I think I said 2-1. I can't remember what I said.
Thank goodness. Millwall, our opposition that we are playing tomorrow, have lost 6 of their 9 home games so far this season. It's not like them. They seem to have a bit of an issue. They've won 1 game under their new gaffer, lost the rest. Sacking Gary Rowett, not sure it was the right decision. They are in a transition period, and that's the typical time for those teams to win when they come up against us. So let's hope that they're still in the transition period and we exploit their gaps. That's it. Cool. Let's have a lovely afternoon. Catch you on the next one. Bye.
Oi!
Bye. I don't know. I don't know how to outro though.